the kick after the whistle and knock off the World Cup champions. Pretty big for Australian rugby.
Yeah, you could have pretty much written the story, couldn't you, before it happened? But yeah, on a personal level, to see Quade do that, particularly after what I think he's probably has been and is the premier number 10 that Australia has. It's been great to see him do that and come back. And then I guess it's amazing what a win can do for the Australian public when it comes to the Wallabies, and to knock off the World Cup champions, especially the results the Springboks have had leading into those games and their performances. It's a fantastic win, but I'm pretty sure they'll be saying this week that that week's gone now. The win was great, but we need to back it up this week. And what a no better opportunity than to be here in Brisbane, Suncorp Stadium, bring a mate for free, fill the stadium up and support the Wallabies, and get behind them. It's fantastic.
They're coming in the box. There'll be a backlash after a loss like that. When you were playing, how do you prepare knowing like a big test is coming because they'll be wanting to get back?
Yeah, they're big and they'll be angry, no doubt it's going to hurt this weekend. But again, for us to be where I think the Wallabies will want to be, they'll know that, and they'll be prepared. I'm sure this week they'll physically and mentally prepare themselves for what's coming, and there's no doubt. I can't, whilst I think the Springboks, they've got talent across their whole team, across the board. I don't think they'll change much from their game plan. I just think their execution will be far better. They'll obviously need to be, but they'll be pretty disappointed with that. But I think their physicality will be a lot, will be amped up a lot as well.
Do you expect the Wallabies to make any changes or stick with winning formula? If you were coach, would there be a change or two, you think?
If I was coach, but you've got obviously hearing on the weekend with O'Connor being he was fit to play last week. There might be, I guess there might be chat of him moving back to fullback. Obviously with Quade playing so well at 10, I couldn't see that being changed, but who knows. But that's the thing with rugby these days. It's whilst I understand the importance of structure, I think at the end of the day also you need that unpredictability in your team as well. You need those players that can play unpredictable rugby within the structure, and I thought that was the difference that Quade brought. He made the box sit back and watch and look because you just didn't know what he was going to do. But he still played very well within the structure whilst doing that. And I think having O'Connor, another strike weapon out there, Samu with that, that direct running and that ability to offload and that ability to ball play as well. I think that mix-up, again, will just make the box think if we rush, we're going to get hurt, so we have to wait, and then you get that indecision, and obviously that's where opportunities start, and we saw that with the first try with Banks.
Chris, with Banks, if O'Connor comes and plays at 15, what does it mean for Banks, and how do you think he's gone? There's been a bit of talk about his spot, but he seems to have played all the games so far.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? And certainly I've been in that position myself over the years. With certain players coming and going. So again, it's a tough one. It's one of those positions, I guess, where if you're not on your game every single day, and we knew going into that game last week that the Springboks were going to kick a lot of high balls, and it was going to take us to be on our game on every one of those to diffuse that. We needed that. So again, it's just one of those cutthroat positions that each week, if you're not on that 100% level, then and you got someone like O'Connor or someone else in the mix, there's that opportunity for them that they're going to try that. They may try that. Who knows?
Do you think he's done enough to cement a spot there? It sounds like you're not quite convinced that he's a man.
Oh, mate, it doesn't just come down to one performance on a field. It comes down to how well O'Connor's training, how well Banks is training, how well they've gone this week in training. I mean, there's a lot of things as a coach you want to be looking at leading into a week, and I like to look at body language and confidence and how the mood is when each player's in there. So again, it's you can't just read it off one game or one performance.
You mentioned Samo's influence. You got Sean McMahon in the squad again. He might play this weekend or the week after. I guess it shows Samo's already showed what we've been missing. The guys that are ineligible. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's great when guys are eligible, isn't it? All of a sudden you've got options. All of a sudden you can start to pick on performance. You can start to put pressure on individuals, and you can start to you can even start to get the opposition to start guessing who they're going to pick and what game plan they're going to go with. So I'm all for it. I think we need to have that ability or find a better balance of being able to bring back our stars and find a way that they can still go and obviously probably a little bit like the New Zealand model where they can still go on that Japan, go and get that rest and that type of money over there and do that for a year or two or whatever it is, and then have them the ability to have them play for the Wallabies as well. I mean, it's inevitable, so you might as well start to embrace it.
You've seen the Japanese comp up close yourself. It's obviously doing no harm to these blokes.
It's a fast, skillful league. It had a reputation probably 10, 15 years ago of being a slow, static, a competition where older players, once they weren't eligible or weren't good enough to play for their country anymore or their state, would go over and play just for their last few years. It's not that anymore. It's a fast, skillful competition that if you're smart as a player, you go over there. I think it's a competition where you can build on a lot of aspects that you probably wouldn't get in any other competition because of the pace of it and because of the adjustments and also the amount of time that you get to work on yourself physically. You just don't get those opportunities here in Australia, definitely.
So what you're suggesting, rather than just completely throw out the G'day law, just make it selective still, like every player overseas shouldn't be allowed to put their hand up for Australian selection, but just be able to open the gates selectively to players you want, or how do you think?
Well, the minute you open it up selectively, there was always going to be that player that thinks he should be one of the golden selected few that should be on the list that probably doesn't. There's always going to be someone that doesn't make that list that's going to go, and ultimately that's one player may be the player that you may need. So I think at the end of the day, you've just got to keep you've got to keep an open mind. As much as I'd love to keep the talent here and keep our local competition as tough as possible and as skillful as possible in Super Rugby, and I think that also needs to flow down into club footy if we're going to be honest about it all. Sometimes it's just not possible. You've got, and I'm not going to sit here and begrudge anyone for wanting to go over and play for money. I mean, I've done it myself. At the end of the day, you're only a footy player for a very, very short window, and you've got to do the most you can for your family and what's required. And if that is to take a year or two and go over there but still be eligible, then we just got to make those adjustments. We've got to find. But you've got to understand, you go over there, that may open the opportunity for someone else as well. So, it's not a given that if you go to Japan, you're going to walk straight back in either. So, I think we've just got to be smart about it. We've got to be mindful about it, but we've also got to make sure that whilst players are away, we're keeping an eye on them and we're still developing, and we're not just letting them go and forget about them and leave them to their own devices.
I suppose one of the real highlights of your career was being involved in 3 World Cups. We're standing here at Suncorp Stadium, and there is the very real chance that Australia can put a fantastic bid to host the 2027 tournament. You played in 2003. What sort of kick along with that, give the momentum of Australian rugby, they won the hosting rights?
Well, we saw the effects that they had here, 2003 had here in Australia when we had it. I think prior to 2003 we had the Lions series, which really showed how a crowd supports a rugby game when they saw the Lions, especially here in Brisbane. You know, that really transformed how crowds got involved in rugby. Then we had the World Cup, which really showcased what rugby is all about, and participation levels went up. You know, involvement in junior levels went up, and I think ultimately in 2027, out of what's going to, I hope what comes out of it the most is club rugby has that kind of that resurgence of player numbers come into it, and we can really pick up that development area in rugby, where we can really find the next stars through that club rugby, how it used to be. And you know, we've got a club rugby system that's strong. It's a competition that's fierce, and we can really look at that competition and gauge you know, real quality players out of that. And then we've got players that are playing Super Rugby and at a Wallaby level that come back and play that level as well. So you know, it's a fantastic opportunity for Australia worldwide, not only worldwide but here locally as well.
I guess it's an Australian footprint for a World Cup. I mean, you managed to score 5 tries in Adelaide. So what's the benefit of taking rugby to every corner of Australia essentially in a World Cup?
Well, again, the next star could be, you know, could be up in Darwin, could be down in Adelaide, could be anywhere, could be in the you know, the rural areas of what, you know, of northern New South Wales, of Narrabri. Who knows? You know, that's the beauty of the World Cup and the beauty of taking our game on the road and showcasing it across the whole country is you just never know where that next star is going to be, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity to be able to do that.
Someone who played here, Latho, Wallabies coming back here this weekend, incredible record here. Just as someone who's running on that field, what is it about this place that's special that sort of inspires you, maybe makes you grow with football, get a bit heavier, run a bit harder? What is it about this place?
Yeah, I used to always think, you know, running out at Ballymore with the, you know, had the nostalgia of the hill and the crowd was so close. But when you play test matches here, it's almost as you get that same kind of close feeling. You know, the crowd is almost on top of you. Yeah, for me, it's one of the top 3 stadiums in the world that I ever played at, and it's not because it's home. It's just, you know, the atmosphere that's created. You know, the weather is you know, is suitable for running rugby, throwing the ball around, and but it basically really does come down just to the atmosphere and what's created. And you know, when you've got the ARU bring a mate for free, you know, there's a real opportunity there to really pack this stadium. You know, we've all been complaining about being locked up and not being able to do anything. Well, here's a perfect opportunity to get out and do something. So, you know, I encourage everyone to get out and enjoy the atmosphere. Double header, you know, you get to see the current world champions against the Wallabies, who we beat them last week. You got the rematch. It's going to be tough. It's going to be physical. It's going to be something you want to come out and watch for that aspect. And then you got no doubtably the world's best team in the All Blacks playing the Pumas, who at any time can just turn it on. So with running rugby, which is exciting to see. So yeah, double header here at Suncorp. I couldn't see any better reason to get out and do it. And you know, we're moving into the best weather. So yeah.
You're a Gold Coast guy. Really outstanding effort by the Wallabies to knock off the Box last Sunday night. What does it take to knock them off for a second time?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tougher. You know, they played very well, but they'll have to play a lot better. The Box will come out. They're not world champions for nothing. So the boys will have a tough, 10 or 15 minutes up front, I would suspect. And but we've got a very good record here at Suncorp. So the boys love playing here. I know personally when I was playing, I used to love the stadium, and it's the best rugby stadium in Australia. So in my opinion, so I think we're going to go very well. So I think it's going to be another good night for the Wallabies.
What do you think of that combination of Samuel and Slade together? I was going to say again, but together What do you make of that?
Yeah, they combined really well. Whenever Quade got a little bit of trouble, he just handed it off, and he's so good at getting across the advantage line. So they combined really well. Like Quade to not play international rugby for 4 years and come back and fit in and played the way he did was tremendous. Really, I didn't think he'd go that well personally, but he physically is in fantastic nick, and he was rock solid, and you couldn't fault him. I was really happy for him.
Can you fit James O'Connor into that mix somewhere? Like I was saying, maybe a fullback to complement those two, or what do you think?
Yeah, that's probably the way the team's looking at the moment. There's definitely a spot potentially available there. Obviously we know James is a world-class player when fit. So obviously if he's fit and ready to get out there, I think like Quade, he's got that experience and he's got the know-how to play Test rugby. So I think he can go out and definitely do a job in the 15 jersey.
And what do you make of the eligibility rules loosening to get these guys back, like Sean potentially and Summer's already gone?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a positive. We all need the Wallabies to be the best they can be, and if that's getting the guys overseas and it'll make the Wallaby team better, I'm all for it. We need to win the hearts and minds of young boys and girls, and to do that, we need the Wallabies to be successful. So I think they need to have a really, whether they go right out and open it right up, but they need to get the best players back playing for the Wallabies.
Mate, do you think, well, he's 33, do you think he could make it to the next World Cup? I know it's only been one game, but
Yeah.
could anyone do it, do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's all about his body, and he looks in tremendous physical condition to me. And probably the good thing about not playing Test rugby for 4 years, your body's not getting hit at that international level week in, week out. So that's probably helped his longevity. Obviously the Japanese league's really improved, but I think if Quade can keep his body, in good nick, well, there's no reason why he can't go to that and even beyond if he wanted to.
What do you make of his ability to change his style? I mean, he's 100% still capable of all the freakish things that made him a player in the beginning, but he built a career on that. And changing his personality, he's changed his ability to play a certain way. He was criticised for a long time as someone who could do the flashy thing, but when he was called for to roll up the sleeves or just take a tackle, he just was nervous to it. Like, as a former playmaker, what do you make of the ability to change his style when you built the whole game on one?
Yeah, well, I think that's just growth. It's experience. We all know Quade. I wish I could, as a player, do half the things that he could have done. That I could on the. Can we do that again? That's okay. Can you ask that question again,
Just
please?
his ability, what do you make of his ability to change his style or tone himself down when for 10 years plus being outlandish and pulling off the freakish play, the 1% was what he built a career on?
Yeah, no, like we all know, what Quade can do, and I think that comes back to experience and growth, and learning your game. And obviously, in Test matches, sometimes the play is to be a little bit conservative. I wish I could have done some of the things that Quade can do on the football field, but sometimes in big games you just need to do that simple thing and do it really well. I think over time, and you can't buy experience. And I know young Noah Lelizio, he's got to really learn from the experiences that he's had, and his rugby growth is going to be exponential. But it's great having a guy like Quade in the squad to really mentor him and his growth in the coming years.
Do you think there'll be like a little bit of a cat and mouse one strategically last weekend with the conservative style of play as opposed to the Wallabies' stance? Just within the end they kind of went that way. Well, what do you think happens this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of winning that gain line. You've got to win that, do the hard yards early, so then you can play some footy. So I think we did that, in patches. I think Dave Rennie will want some improvement because they're going to need that, this week against a South African team that are going to come out of the blocks. So I think they'll enjoy last week's win, but it'll be a different game on Saturday night here.
And what's the best way to stop the rolling balls?
That's not my department, that one.
Flats,
Just stop and get there, eh? Just stop.
Yeah, I think obviously those rolling mauls, it's a matter of just getting in there and stopping it
Yeah.
straight away. So that's they're doing it well, and it's obviously a strength of the Wallabies too. So but we've got to really get in there and stop that momentum straight away.
That's very insightful. Flats, 2003 Rugby World Cup, perhaps the peak of your career. What did you feel observing and looking back at the 2003 World Cup in Australia and the tantalising hope of getting one in 2027?
Yeah, like obviously we've got the bid out there for the World Cup in 2027. For me, playing a World Cup, in front of your friends and family was very cool. We got to travel all around the country, and that time rugby was very popular. The stadiums were full, and not just domestically, but as World Cups do, people from all countries coming to Australia. So it was a real festive time and a great time for rugby in Australia. And hopefully, in 2027 we can, win that World Cup. And what it also gives your elite talent, whether it be in rugby programs or outside rugby programs, it gives them incentive, to stay in rugby and want to be a Wallaby and experience that in your home country, because it's for me it was one of the most special things in my rugby career.
I mean, you kicked an absolute pressure-packed penalty goal to get the Wallabies into extra time. You put yourself into Quade's shoes on full time down at Seabus Super Stadium. What's he feeling, or what's he going through to not get to go like that?
Yeah, I think he would have been pretty confident, Quade. He, 7 from 7 before that. So, I think as a goal kicker, they're the moments that you start to enjoy. You're a goal kicker when you want to get your hands on the ball and kick those big goals. A few of the boys wind me up and they talk about the first goal that I missed, so that the boys give me a bit of niggle about that. But when you're a goal kicker, you want to get your hand on those big kicks. And I know when I was a younger, goal kicker, you didn't get that excited. The pressure sort of got to you. But as you mature and become a goal kicker, you really like those big moments.
Looking at Quade's technique, like he's really only been a 70% goal kicker through his career.
Yep.
He actually 8 out of 8 he just hit completely sweet. What did you think technique-wise in terms of where he's at?
No, he looked very good. He looked really comfortable. You couldn't fault most of his game. His goal kicking was top shelf. Like that kick to win, that was not an easy kick. So he gets a lot of ticks for that game, Quadey.
Back to 2003, he scored that blinding try in 18 seconds or something to that effect against Romania. I don't want to make it old, but I remember the kid hearing that if you did that, scored inside a minute, you got a life supply of Guinness. Did that ever come up?
No, I never saw any of that Guinness, but I've probably had that supply over in certain pubs around the places, but not free ones.
Did you get anything for it?
No, but it's still in the Guinness Book of Records apparently. So.